Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special fall edition of the Arkansas Alumni Association's Lunch and Learn series. My name is Mary Kate Harrison, and I'm the Executive Projects Coordinator here at the Alumni Association. Today, we're fortunate enough to have the Arkansas Alumni Association National Board of Directors President, Dr. Ron Rainey, who will be sharing his vision and goals for his term as president and how we, the association, are focused on growing the University of Arkansas impacts through engagement. Ron will be joined by our Executive Director of the Alumni Association and Associate Vice Chancellor, Brandy Cox-Jackson. So before we begin the presentation, I'd like to ask everyone to please keep yourselves on mute throughout the presentation so that we can hear Ron and Brandy as best as possible. And there will be some time at the end where we will open it up for some follow-up and some questions, so you will get a chance for that. So to begin, I'm happy to introduce my boss, Brandy Cox-Jackson. Brandy returned home to the University of Arkansas as Associate Vice Chancellor and Executive Director of the Arkansas Alumni Association in April of 2014. She's worked in higher education and nonprofit management for more than 15 years with experience in alumni relations, communications, and development. So thanks for being here with us today, Brandy.
Thank you, Mary Kate. Thank you so much for all you do and for keeping us all organized on these lunch and learns. You've done a tremendous job. Really appreciate you. And it is my honor to introduce Ron Rainey, our National Board President. Dr. Ron Rainey is, of course, the Alumni Association President. He has also served with our Bumpers Alumni Society and has served as a past president with that organization, as well as other societies and chapters across the association. So he has a vast knowledge of the various work that we do within the organization. It's going to be great to hear from him. He has over 25 years of experience in higher education, building and delivering programs and resources to serve the agriculture sector. As an economist, Ron works with marketing and business planning across all segments of the food value chain, from production fields to consumer research. Ron holds 3 degrees from the University of Arkansas, 2 from Bumpers College of Agriculture, Food and Life Sciences, and his PhD in finance from the Walton College of Business. And he currently lives in Little Rock. So please welcome Ron Rainey to visit with us about his vision, as Mary Kate said earlier. He has been serving as president-elect for the Alumni Association for the last year. And I think it was even a year before that we had a conversation about his opportunity to come on and serve in this leadership role. And it is such a privilege to be able to work with him, to call him a colleague and a friend. Please welcome Dr. Ron Rainey.
Thank you, Brandy and Mary Kate. I just want to start off first by saying I'm just thankful and humbled to serve in this capacity as your president and excited about what we can accomplish over the next couple of years. Everybody that knows me, they know that I love the University of Arkansas, but also hold higher education as a special place, or the pathway that education provides is a special place in my heart. And so my efforts through the Alumni Association are to to carry forward, to pay forward the numerous blessings that have been on my life and my family as a result of coming to the University of Arkansas and continuing to serve in various leadership roles. And so, again, I'm just thankful and humbled to serve as your president. I also want to pause because we're definitely living in some challenging times now. So just as we continue to battle through this pandemic, we know that we're all battling the same storm, but it's important to note that we're in different boats. And so I'm hopeful that we're all patient and supportive of others as we endure, but also have some hope. I'd also like to acknowledge that throughout this crisis, I just want to commend the efforts of the Alumni Association and its staff because they have been just tremendously engaging and changing up our processes, but continuing to help drive some of the thought processes to help hopefully to serve the association. I also want to applaud members as they have continued to serve diligently even during this trying time and been supportive of my efforts and encouraging conversations and thought. Vision for the Alumni Association to intentionally go to the next slide. And so we will focus on highlighting what our beloved university does, not just for the state of Arkansas, but also what it offers for future generations as we impact with innovations and discoveries that touch the globe both directly and indirectly. And most importantly, is to promote those opportunities that the U of A offers for our future generations. As you look behind my backdrop, we see that the university was founded in 1871 when it was established as a land-grant university. As a land-grant university, it was specific. A foundational mission of a land grant is to take innovations and discoveries that occur on our main campus and throughout our laboratories, throughout our research and outreach and extension centers, and with our aligned entities. Take those discoveries to the benefit of our citizens. Ultimately, our campus successes enrich all of our citizens, both rural and urban. The U of A plays a critical role as a land grant in enhancing the quality of life of every Arkansan, extending beyond the scientific discoveries to entrepreneurship and direct investment across our state. Next year, the university will be celebrating 150 years of successes. The celebration will highlight the numerous ways in which the U of A meets its mission, uplifting the economic and social tide of the state and ultimately brightening its future. Over the next 2 years, I seek conversations to guide enhancing not just the specific engagements that are promoted, but also to identify appropriate metrics to assess these impacts, as well as measure and evaluate growth. The association, through its many alumni chapters and societies, has an array of programs and activities that help to promote the U of A. These engagements occur both on our campus and in our respective local communities, whether that community be in Northwest Arkansas or possibly in a foreign country. All a fellow alum needs to feel a sense of belonging is to see that beloved Razorback. And as a lifelong resident of Arkansas, it has been my experiences that most Arkansans love the Razorbacks. But when you are an alum, when you have attended and or graduated from the U of A, that love, that pride extends beyond the successes on our fields and our courts. It extends to our accomplishments in our colleges and in our departments. For example, that pride extends beyond just celebrating a top 20 ranking, which we will soon have in our football program and our basketball program, to a top ranking for our business school or our College of Agriculture or Poultry or Ag departments. We celebrate those rankings with just as much pride. And it is in this area of celebrating successes that I hope to focus. I recall attending a social media training a few years ago. The overarching goal was to change our framework or our paradigm of how to change our paradigm of social media activity. The trainers told us that the training told us that initially the goal of social media engagement was to get followers or likes to grow your following. They challenged our thinking that a better goal was not to simply track followers or likes, but rather it was more important to get someone to share your organization. I think of my own activities with social media. It is truly a different level of engagement to like something versus sharing. To share, you have to agree with everything and be willing to become a co-signer, if you will, stating in a way that you are totally supporting the effort. And with that in mind, I challenge us to share the U of A, to share our U of A celebrations with our personal and our professional networks. It is with that sense of willingness to share the U of A, to share our pride for the U of A, our experiences, our departments, our organizations, even our favorite sports teams, that I hope to engage in some specific areas to grow our collective university impacts. And I've highlighted in some specific areas to look at growing our student experiences and our connections, looking at growing our Alumni Association chapters and societies, exploring networking, leadership, and service opportunities, thinking back to the land grant mission, sharing the many economic and cultural success stories that originate from the U of A, or have direct linkages to the U of A family, both past and present. Look at the creative businesses and public-private partnerships that our university has provided both direct and indirect support to many of our state's industries that extend beyond providing talented employees to discovering new innovations and technology to sustain and advance those industries. And then lastly, I just hope to grow the U of A family. That is the University of Arkansas family that speaks to both not only our current family of alums, but also our future family of students that we'll touch. Next slide. So I'd like to just focus on these few areas for a little bit to talk about. So initially, let's look at student experiences and connections. I came up through serving the leadership roles with the Little Rock Capital Chapter and the Dale Bumpers College of Agriculture Alumni Society. I've also actively supported the Black Alumni Society. I recall the numerous opportunities to support and engage with our current and future students from fall freshman send-offs, college fairs, luncheons, and celebrations. And I know that we're in COVID right now, but hopefully those times will return soon. As we think of those opportunities from our chapters and societies and from our organizations and departmental engagements, are there ways to enhance this engagement and, more importantly, share those success stories to help broaden the ability to connect with current and future students? I encourage you to not only to volunteer, but also to recruit other alums to participate and attend in these events, as well as respond to some of the alumni programmatic requests that you may receive in the mail. For our students, it's important that we all know that their connection within the U of A starts with us. It starts with interactions with alumni. Next slide. As we look at alumni, looking at networking and service opportunities, I'd love to look at what are some of the activities that we're doing with our local chapters and societies, and invite you to actively engage. I challenge you to connect if you're not already a member and active. But if you are a member and active, I invite you to strengthen those connections through the association. But I also encourage you to extend those interactions beyond your chapters and societies to reach to those respective, your respective experiences on campus, your colleges and your departments. As we engage, I hope that we are sharing the successes of those entities. I also ask that you join us as we challenge the leadership of those entities, those chapters, those societies, those departments and colleges, as we challenge that leadership to engage, to broaden the U of A's footprint. Are there things that we can advocate for and processes that the association can support that would broaden the association's reach? Are there ways for us to be more inclusive across the many social and economic dimensions that make up our alums that are spread across the globe? And specifically at this critical time in our nation, where we are seeing racial and equity issues being debated, are we part of processes to support and or position the University of Arkansas for positive change? Are we actively seeking to leverage our alumni networks to create impacts, to create positive change? I hope that we can use the Alumni Association to impact positive change in this space as well. Next slide, please. Thinking back to our land grant foundation, I'd just like to highlight the successes that the university is having in teaching, research, and extension. These innovations, these discoveries that our faculty and our alumni are driving. And I also want us to seek to celebrate those opportunities of not just the researchers and the teachers, but also the entrepreneurs, the business and political leaders, the creators, the entertainers whom have graduated from the U of A. We are actively and strategically engaged. I'm hopeful that we will engage to tell those success stories, to share the university. Our conversations of sharing the University of Arkansas could help to land that future scientist, land that future business innovator or inventor or entrepreneur, or that build that collaboration that helps to build a brand that is the University of Arkansas. A collaboration that ultimately will grow the economic and social successes of not just the U of A, but the state of Arkansas. Next slide. And so the last area that I hope to really engage is to grow the University of Arkansas impacts through engagements. It is by identifying metrics that go beyond the monetary returns. To me, if we look at growing our engagements, aligning with the University of Arkansas goals and promoting those linkages, sharing the material that we receive from university relations, social media and direct mail, providing that grassroots feedback to our leadership, promoting those diverse celebrations and collaborations to help build and strengthen that network. To me, if we can grow the breadth and depth of those relationships and connections with the U of A, the returns on that investment will grow exponentially in terms of scholarship donations and direct donations to campus, but also strategic alliances, student engagement and recruitment. As we engage with our organizations, with our chapters and our alumni societies, and with our respective departments, I ask that we can commit to drive this narrative of student and faculty successes, of alumni opportunities, and the potential to grow economic impacts to grow the footprint of our beloved university. I invite you all to be an active part of the association's efforts over the next few years as we continue to build on its legacy of connecting and letting the connection start with the association, but to seek to really enhance it and grow the University of Arkansas's impacts.
Thank you, Ron. Right there. Okay, sorry, I was making sure I didn't freeze. Y'all know I had some problems with that when I started, when we first got on earlier. So, Ron, and I know this has really been something you've thought a lot about on the vision of our Alumni Association and in your presidency, but I think you had mentioned to me just kind of how the experiences you've had within the association have kind of led you to some of this. Do you want to share with us a little bit about your personal experience? I know you touched on it a little bit, but you and I have had some other conversations about how those things have developed over the years and how you've seen the impact of the association grow, and then looking at how we continue to move that forward.
No, perfect. I really appreciate that opportunity because as I said earlier, I love the University of Arkansas, but that connection has benefited me both personally and professionally. I think back, I've always been connected with the university and the Alumni Association upon graduation, starting initially with the Dale Bumpers College of Agriculture Alumni Society. And it was early on that, you know, I was a young professional and I'm like, how, you know, I have all these opportunities. I love the Razorback, but it was that connection that allowed me to continue to contribute to academic discussion, promotion of opportunities for scholarships and pathways for future students. It has allowed me to network with professionals within my industry and outside of it to really help me grow to understand and appreciate the state, to grow and understand and appreciate the passion that others have for our beloved state and university. And to align and collaborate, whether, you know, as I'm looking at the screen, I see year-long friends that I've known for decades, mentors, colleagues, and that process is beneficial to us on the individual level and then also as a society. So that's one of the things that I'm hopeful to really heighten and highlight throughout is talking about those opportunities from my own personal experience of growing my personal and professional networks, growing my leadership skills, and growing my ability to give back and serve the state, to give back, to talk about what the university has done, not just in my life, but talk about what the university does across the state and across the globe.
Absolutely, Ron. And I think one of the things you and I have talked about, because you are in Central Arkansas, you're in Little Rock, and I'm a native of the Hot Springs area. We're both from those, although be it some of the, we're actually originally both from more rural high schools out in the state of Arkansas. And your work, your professional work, as well as your experience as an alum, has allowed you to see the different perceptions across the state. And you and I have talked about the significance of our alumni base being able to work through and serve as ambassadors of some of those perceptions. Can you talk to us a little bit about some of the perceptions you've seen out there and some of the conversations we need to be having?
No, absolutely. I've as being engaged with these with the alumni groups that I have been, and I am a professor with the university, so I get that engagement of what is the university doing in my county, in my city. There's some perceptions out there that the University of Arkansas has kind of taken a step back from South Arkansas and taken a step back from the Delta. To me, there's some perceptions out there that the University of Arkansas has taken a step back from enhancing diverse student recruitment, and that's diversity across racial, and I'd also say urban rural, whereas maybe we focused on maybe some of the more urban centers around the country, and maybe not as recruited as well or more diligently for some of those shining nuggets that are within our state, especially within our rural areas. Because as you look across, as I said earlier, everyone loves the Razorbacks. But when we make those connections, I just think back on the friends that I have to this day that I met on campus, met my wife on campus. I met my future employer while I was on campus, had no idea I'd work for the university, had opportunities, but my love for Arkansas has kept me with the University of Arkansas. And so I think it's important that as alums, because the connection starts with us, that we share those experiences, that we talk about the potential to not just serve as a potential college destination for students, but that the university can serve to what are some of the things that the university is currently doing for your local community, or what can it be doing? I know that I work within Extension. We have an office in every county. And there's a perception that the University of Arkansas does not go out into all corners of the state. I can say proudly that I know that there's a presence there, and I invite you to go into those offices to see, even if it's outside of the areas of expertise that the Division of Ag provides, Division of Agriculture. I would encourage you to make a connection to see how you can connect with the University of Arkansas in whatever part, not just in the state of Arkansas, but as we reach out, as you'll learn that our footprint is global now. We have successes in our labs and our classrooms that are impacting the world. We have students, we have an alumni base that is across the globe, and they are impacting the world across the globe. I think those successes are important to understand some of the contributions of our international alums in terms of leadership in foreign countries, in terms of their innovations and successes in business and in government and in other foreign countries. And they still proudly display that Razorback and that connection. I think it's important that we share and continue to tell those connections and help build build on some of those perceptions, and where there is truth in those perceptions. Hopefully we can engage to break down some of those barriers so that we really are, as a land-grant university, serving all of our stakeholders across the state. We're uplifting the economic and social tide of our great state and growing its impact across the world.
Ron, as you and I have talked, we've also discussed the fact that we want to be able to provide more information to our alumni, sharing with them what is really happening up here, whether they're in the state of Arkansas in whatever county it might be, or across the country or around the world. And interestingly enough, the current environment has really shifted the Alumni Association in the way we connect and has pivoted us into a different way to connect. Allowing us, I think, some other opportunities with that. But in that, and I just want to commend that Ron and his points he's making and his efforts he's making is that let's find out what the information is and let's turn around and have those conversations back to our alumni. So we've got a couple of different programmatic things that are coming this fall. I know Ron and I are going to talk about a couple of those across campus, some programs that we're going to highlight. Different colleges, and then also critical conversations that we're going to have. And we'll talk a little bit more about that here in a few minutes. But I just say that coming off of what you were mentioning about perceptions, then some of the things we'd like to do to talk about those more in depthly this fall. But one of the things you've said to me and some emails we've had, and I think in the last couple of months, we've had more emails back and forth. I've told Ron, I said, yeah, you didn't realize what you had actually gotten into when you agreed to be president. But I'm often looking for his advice and guidance as we move through various conversations. And one of the emails I got from you, and I have to tell you, I've used this quote with our staff, and I think it's something that's really important to share back with our alumni, is that your campus experience determines your alumni pride. And we're going into homecoming this year with a new theme that is one Razorback, one community. And I just kind of want to look at those two together about thinking about our student experience. And then we don't all have the same student experience. And do we understand one another's student experience? Because that time you spend on campus, I think what we've said is you don't all of a sudden become a loyal and dedicated alum when you're off campus if your experience on campus didn't touch you and resonate with you and build ultimately your lasting relationship. So I just want to kind of put out there that quote and what you've thought when you look at that quote, and also what you've heard from your fellow alumni and different crucial conversations happening on campus right now.
Absolutely. No, I think especially in this current environment that we are, is that we all can pause to really just take a critical eye and look at the situations and have some conversations to people, with people that don't look like you. I was a conversation I'd had with Brandy as I talked about my experience. First went to Fayetteville in '87, was up there through '93, and then went back in '97 to 2000. I had mostly positive experiences while I was on campus. I had some experiences within the city of Fayetteville that were somewhat negative, were very negative. It didn't cloud my campus experience, but it did cloud some places that I would go in Northwest Arkansas. And I will admit that I've seen progress and I've seen some things change. But I think for people that may or may not be aware of those situations for certain populations, for certain student groups, it's important that we understand that. One of the things of being with the Alumni Association that's phenomenal for me is to talk with alums from different generations. Specifically, of interest to me is to talk to people of color that were there in the late 60s, early 70s. And it's heartbreaking because I've talked to many of those alums. I'm not in Fayetteville, I'm in Little Rock at some event, because those alums will tell me they'll never go back to Fayetteville. They'll never go back to the campus because their experience was so negative. I think it's important for us to have some understanding and empathy for those situations, to understand that those experiences, not only do they shape their pride for their university, it shapes the level of support that they're going to have going forward. It shapes whether or not their grandkids are going to be students there. And it's a hard sell for many alums that had those experiences to then recruit family or people in their community without some assurances that things have progressed. And unfortunately, I'm hopeful that many of you on this call have learned or are aware of the Black at UARK, some of the things that our current students and current faculty still struggle with. And to me, it's vital, it's important that the association get involved and get engaged, that we can be a part of that positive change, be a part of trying to enhance awareness and understanding, and being a part of just raising empathy so that we can understand that we can move forward. We should recognize that there's more that connects us than it is that divides us. As we look at one Razorback, one family, I was sitting there as I was getting this presentation, I had thought about pulling up all the pictures over the decades of the influences, the positive influences that I had while on campus and since I've graduated that were directly aligned with campus. And it is innumerous. I would start naming some names, but I wouldn't want to leave out some very important people. But there's some phenomenal leaders that were in the Dale Bumpers Alumni Society that still play significant roles in my life today that started 20 years ago. There's significant relationships with faculty that I've maintained over the years. It's heartbreaking to me that we have students that didn't or don't have those connections, or that they've had experiences that halt or limit those opportunities. Because to me, as we talk about this theme of one Razorback, one family, we can only recognize our greatness as one family when we start to recognize and value those numerous connections across social, racial, economic lines of how we can grow not just the University of Arkansas's impact, but grow our great state of Arkansas.
Absolutely. And you brought up what's happening on campus and the information being shared now with Black at UARK. And the university turned very quickly to having some of those crucial conversations on campus with the Ideals Institute running some programs called Transforming U of A, Combating Racism to Build a More Inclusive Campus. And the campus involvement in that has been tremendous. And I know they're still collecting data of the information that was supplied. But from that, you and I have been talking about what do we do for alumni and how do we extend this conversation out to our alumni. And I know we're excited to talk and kind of launch from here a series.
No, I'm excited that we're going to launch hopefully it'll be a 4-part series where we're talking about conversations on race. And it's going to target alums, targeting one, to raise the awareness of what is happening on campus. What are some of the, from the conversations of transformation, or transforming the U of A, from those conversations, what are some of the themes that we can go beyond as we look at this social climate, environment climate that we have, that we can move beyond platitudes to some actionable items, to look to see what can the university do to change the culture, to make it, because the thing that's heartbreaking to me, and it's heartbreaking to alums that I've talked to that have reached out to me that maybe graduated in the late 70s or early 80s, and said, from what I can see, have things changed from some of the marginalized communities? Have things changed at the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville? From before Black at UARK, you could have asked me and I would have said things have changed tremendously, and I would have just talked about from my unique experience. I think it's important for us to look beyond our unique experiences and connect with others, because only by recognizing and valuing those connections that we can help to take care of the entire family. So as we launch this series of conversations, I'm hoping that we can raise the awareness of the actions that are occurring on campus, that we can get some more factual information out there. There's some things that was gut-wrenching to me when I heard in a conversation with an alumni committee that the University of Arkansas is not recommended for students of color that are first-generation students. And that is a recommendation from community organizations that are providing scholarships to send these students to college. And that recommendation, I don't think is based off perception. I think it's based off real experiences of students that have previously gone up there and have not been successful. It's based on the real experiences of what's the level of institutional support that is provided for some of our more marginalized students. I think that we have to just come at this collectively, and hopefully these series of conversations will serve to highlight those opportunities for us to understand. If there's been some progress, then I'm welcome to celebrate those successes. If there's something that's negative there, I'm hopeful that we can identify it and identify some action item that we can collectively move forward to change that culture so that future students don't have to endure that.
Absolutely, Ron. And I know we've talked about, and I will kind of open up the chat here in just a couple of minutes if you have questions, and we'll do our best to get to those. Ron, we've talked about as an association our ability to think about the work we're doing and being more inclusive and intentional in the work, and how do we make sure that we are inviting everyone to participate, and not just inviting them, but how are we making people feel welcome? And that covers a lot of different individuals. And so you want to talk a little bit about some of those things we've kind of looked at, and I know we did some of this over the summer. We had every dean on campus. I mean, we as an association, we tend to look at everything, sometimes to the point that we look all over. So we've looked at every college, we're looking at every alumni society, each of our chapters, and trying to find the best ways to bring people together, to have conversations. And I'm so excited about the town hall meetings, as well as the collaborations with colleges. But you want to share a little bit about some of the things you and I have discussed about how do we create an alumni association that is truly inclusive, inviting, and welcoming.
No, indeed. And at its core, I just think that we just have to connect. We had a conversation, Brandy, where I said, you know, as an African American in the Bumpers College and also with the Capital Chapter, I'm one of the few African Americans at some of these events, and that's something that I'm going to understand as I go. That I may go, and part of the reason that I'm able to go is because I've created some lifelong friends already. But thinking back early on, it was a difficult decision because I was like, well, I don't know many people here. What's my connection? And I think it is on the organization to set that environment that is welcoming, to set that environment that gives people that sense of belonging. Our initial connection is that we're all Razorback. I find that I have connections that as you mentioned, I'm from a similar rural area, or we both came from the same small school, or we both came up with very, you know, the way that our parents had raised us in terms of a work ethic. There's many ways that we can connect with people, and I would encourage you to look just beyond some of the superficial ways that we do, whether we look at, well, we're both members of the same organization or we're both the same race, is that if we look at trying to really explore those connections, to really grow our connections, which ultimately I think will grow our organizations. I actually think, as an economist, I think there's a value proposition once you begin to broaden your perspective of understanding others, and understanding others that don't look like you or came from different places as you. I'm a graduate of Wonderview High School. I think there was maybe 30 in my graduating class. When I went to Fayetteville, I was scared to death because I was like, oh my gosh, how am I going to compete with all these students that went to Little Rock, that went to Central, that's the school that I was most familiar with. And I'm thinking about the comparison of, was I prepared? I found out that I was prepared. I also found out that I had a lot of connections with those students that came from Little Rock, even though I came from North Conway County. And it only came from once I made those connections with those individuals. Put some of my stereotypes aside. I was able to interact more so in graduate school with people from around the world, learn about different cultures, experience different foods that I probably would never have taken in and tried. But it created a curiosity with me to seek out those opportunities, to seek, wait a minute, there's someone here from Kazakhstan. I really need to learn as much as I can about that country, because when am I going to get that opportunity again? And I think that we can have those opportunities when we seek those value enhancing opportunities. It grows us at the individual level, but it grows us regardless of what we pursue in our profession, because we have a better perspective and understanding of not just who we are, but how we connect with others.
No, I've said for a long time, and I know we have some chapter leaders on the call, some national board members, as well as faculty and staff from the university, but I've said for a long time, if you attend an event and there's nobody there who looks like you, went to college in the same time frame you did, went to, you know, had a same professor at some point, you only get one or two times to get an alum to engage really in an event. So the ability for our chapters and our societies to provide events in which people feel comfortable to come to in an environment that they may not know anybody, or that the individuals may not look like them or have had the same experience on campus. It's both a challenge, but a great opportunity that I think when you look back, Ron, at what your vision has been for this association, I know you really started with it from this, I think from the standpoint of almost that economic impact. And then that has grown on you because, you know, that I know that's where it started. But when we look at those are the things I see. How do we build that better? How do we build everything we're doing as an association better to reach our alumni?
No.
Have you seen some examples? And I know I'm throwing you one we didn't have on our list here, but have you seen some examples of that in the Capital chapter, for instance?
No, I've seen it in the sense of, for me, connecting across different generations, because now I chuckle, but now I'm old. Connecting with the younger alums, connecting because one of the things that we find is that the millennial generation, you know, they may or may not see a lifelong commitment to an organization. That they're looking at what's in it for me, and trying to make those connections of, well, here's what's in it for you. There's a professional and personal network that can grow, might even help you get your next job, that can help you grow personally. There's potential to engage in conversations and identify mentors, both in your profession and outside your profession. To me, there's opportunities to develop leadership and service opportunities to grow and just serve your local community. The thing I love about being involved with the Capital chapter, we have some diversity. I'm looking at a few of our members here on the screen right now, and the thing I can really hang my hat on it is it's not just work; it's a lot of fun. It's getting to know people and then getting to know their families. It's getting to know that I started out, I'm in this Capital chapter, and all of a sudden, wait a minute, they have a son that is now a graduate of the U of A Law School, which means they've been going to school there for many years. But just think about those connections and having connections with the children of my fellow alums that I've engaged and connected with. I think it's rewarding to provide opportunities to talk about my experience at Fayetteville, to ask those generations, both before that came before me and then those that are coming after, to talk about what is Fayetteville like right now? What are some of the things that the association can engage to help make your connection better? One of the things that I challenge in my vision is that we engage with the leadership of the Capital, the chapters and the societies, that we engage those leadership to look at ways that we can grow our impact. One of the things I'm very proud of the association, the association is where I first went through implicit bias training to really help me see things through a broader lens to understand, you know, that cognitive process of how we approach and how we view everything, basically. But I think when we know better, we can do better. And hopefully we can use the association to leverage it, that we can start doing some more productive things. Things that we're doing well, we can continue those, but hopefully we can identify things to really broaden our footprint and broaden our impact.
And you mentioned mentoring. I will say that one of the things that the association is partnering across campus and with career services is a new mentoring platform. And we've been working on this since March, which is going to be a formal, very robust program that we are hoping to implement maybe with a soft launch this fall and into the spring a little more broadly. But I think that's an opportunity and a different way to look at some of our traditional work with either chapters or societies, from it just being necessarily an event to it being an engagement opportunity and an online opportunity that honestly, I think some of this younger generation, I'm gonna say this for my own, watching my own children, right? Is that that's the way you start to get them in. You're not gonna get them in person until you get them in through maybe some technology communication. And then with that, I would also say Rita Geiger, Oklahoma City. Hi, Rita. Has asked, how can we get young alumni to engage in our chapter activities, chapter or societies? Ron, have you seen any success with that? I know we're always asking that question. So thoughts?
No, to me, and I would also say this, is that I've been one of these people that I think that at times have made this error, is that we're like, wait a minute, we're not doing enough in social media. Let's get a young person. You know, I think that young people, it's second nature to them, but I think sometimes for us to make that assumption, it's short-sighted on our part. But to me, I think if we can really talk about the potential for growing the network, growing their individual professional network for mentoring, that's a great opportunity to try to get them engaged. Because I think that the current generation, they have so many options, but they're looking for the value of okay, so if I'm going to put my time in this, how is it benefiting my community? So if we can really highlight some of those success stories of what our chapters and societies are doing. We've had some events that prior to COVID, so I'll talk about the Capital chapter. I forgot what we called it. I see Dave, it was art on the sidewalk.
Art
I
Chalk.
had no idea what that was.
Was it Art Chalk?
Yeah, and it was, that event was phenomenal because I had people from the art community from different circles say, Ron, you're involved with the association. I see this. Can I be a part of it? And I said, absolutely. But what I really loved was at that event was the connection and serving the community, because we had people bringing their kids out. And as I had a conversation, they didn't go to the university, had no connection. They said, oh, I just saw this on the calendar and thought it was a fantastic event. I had the opportunity to share the university while they were there, of different generations, young and old, different racial backgrounds, different socioeconomic backgrounds. Because of that art, we had an area where kids could sit down and draw on the sidewalk, which was just absolutely fun. And while I wanted to, I thought it best that I sat back and just kind of watch and enjoy the day. But can we be innovative in thinking of some ideas that we engage with our alums? I know that watch parties are great, and I know that the barbecues or the gatherings are good. But are there some other innovative ways that we can think? Or maybe do we draw those young alums in by asking them to think creatively, to give us some ideas? How can we engage? What would excite you? What are some different things that we can do as a society to grow that network?
Yeah, and I know you and I did have a conversation, not that you necessarily want to get into it on this particular call, but talking to a younger alum at one point about why don't you go to, this activity, but they tend to, sometimes people, back to what we were saying earlier, people go where they know they're going to know somebody, right? So how do you get more people involved? And I think this is just something we face in alumni associations and then across the country. The more people we can get involved, and then they start reaching out to their own network of individuals and they build upon it, invite someone because of a relationship. I know I dealt with this even on a personal level, and maybe some of you all have as well, not just with the association or you feel your affinity with the Alumni Association, but a personal experience maybe at your high school. And Ron and I are talking from being from a small school, that there was a group who wanted to do a reunion from my high school. And I was like, okay, sure, that sounds fun. You guys have a good time. But then my best friend from high school called me and says, you're going to be on this call, right? So there is that ability to reach out. And I think it's that one-on-one connection that sometimes we do fall into the, okay, let's just do social media, or let's just, let's try an email. And that's not always the case. Sometimes you got to pick up the phone and call somebody, or you've got to know them personally. It's not enough nowadays to email somebody if you don't know them. We get way too many emails some days. So we have to be thoughtful on that front too. But you're right, innovation is key. And that's why we have to rethink sometimes how we're funding different projects. And so like if we need to invest in a mentoring platform, because that's going to create a connection, maybe even within Oklahoma City, for individuals who are there, Rita, and they get to know somebody because they need a mentor there, that gets them engaged, then maybe that gets them to an event down the line because they've built a relationship in another way. But we have to definitely think outside the box similar to our variety of lunch and learns. I'll just say right now, I talked about Mary Kate when we started. We pivoted to these lunch and learns. I think April 6th was our first one. We've had around 20 speakers for this over the course of the last 5-6 months, and almost 1,250 participants. And I'll just say that as an alumni association, that is not our traditional way to engage, but those numbers are higher than what we often see. So how do we use this learning environment we've been forced into to be more innovative?
No, I think that is one of the things that hopefully it'll carry on beyond is the use of technology. I think we recognized the benefits of technologies where maybe we weren't on board completely, but we've seen where the potential that we can really engage and interact with people. And I know I would love, as I see numerous friends' faces here, I'd love to see you face to face, but isn't it just fantastic that we can gather on this lunch hour and have this conversation to learn a little bit more and understand about not just my vision, but some of the opportunities and activities that the association has going on. What if we were to start capturing that more so with our chapters and societies, possibly doing some virtual meetings, very quick virtual meetings, or maybe have a focus on different segments within our chapter or society membership to try to engage them, just for some conversation, because to me, ultimately, and I have some people that work for me, and I tell them it doesn't matter what I know, it's my relationships that determine what I'm able to do. And so to help us to grow our relationships, to help our chapters and societies grow those relationships, then in turn to help those chapters and societies connect back to various departments and colleges, to really strengthen those connections. I think it's a win-win for the university. It's a win for the organizations, and it strengthens that pride. So that we're celebrating, not only are we celebrating, but we're more aware of what those academic celebrations are, what those economic impact celebrations are.
Well, thank you. That was perfectly teed up to talk about everything we're doing this fall. And I'll say again on the conversations, our Alumni Town Hall series, Conversations on Race. Chancellor Steinmetz and Yvette Murphy-Irby are scheduled to join us in the evening on Tuesday, September 29th at 6 p.m. We'll be getting information about that out hopefully early next week, and that will launch the series running probably, I think we've got it now for running into November, as we'll be scheduling some student panels, alumni panels, and then also the Ideals series in transforming the U of A. And we want our alumni to participate, to listen and to voice their thoughts, and to be able, so the university can listen as well. So I think that is a wonderful program we've got coming, and we hope you will be on the lookout for it. Along with that, we have also coming off of the Lunch and Learns, what Ron was saying, how do we engage the societies, the chapters, and then colleges in a way we've never done before. So our team, Lacey McKinnon, Mercedes, Deb Ucolano, Mercedes Gazaway, Deb Ucolano, Brock Hagley. We've got just a great group. Julie Simpson, I could go on and on and on with all of our team, but they've been working with the colleges to highlight and spotlight each college over the course of the next 8 to 10 weeks. And so each college has picked a week, and they will be doing focused lunch and learns, student-oriented panels and conversations, highlighting alums to speak to current students. There's a lot of different things that are going on there. Fulbright is next week. We've got our band, Alumni Society, will be doing a lunch and learn with Ben Lorenzo from from the Razorback Band, and talking about how does that launch. So there's just so many different opportunities. I hope you'll stay tuned as we hopefully are building some new ways to connect our societies and our chapters. And I see that Bill Stovall has a comment for Ron. I will just mention also on those chapters and societies with these colleges is that we're trying to look specifically in the work that the colleges are doing and engage chapters and societies to know what's happening and where they could be involved. So trying to keep all of those together. Yes, Bill.
Just wanted to say to Ron, I heard you talking about top 20 teams, and you mentioned Razorback football and upcoming top 20 football programs. I love that. I'm looking forward to that. This was good today. Thank you for doing this, Ron.
Hey, happy to do it. Thanks, Bill.
Yeah, I did get a private message from somebody who will remain nameless to ask your projection for the upcoming football season. Do you want us to record when you're doing that? Would you like us to turn record off?
I don't want to give a projection, but I will say we will be improved. I'm excited about what I'm hearing from the team and the coaching staff.
I don't know if you know, Ron, but I have told, and I'll tell them for you too, that whenever we do Pig Trail Nation for interviews, they always, and I tell everybody who I speak with on that, never ever ask me for a prediction for the game. Like the last 3 years, like whatever you do, you could not ask me that question. I will make lots of conversation, but don't ask me predictions.
I remember that I did a couple and I actually got a prediction and they said if you're right, you'll be back here next week, and they didn't invite me back. Game, but it was a prediction, and I predicted a 17-point win, and they said, "Are you serious?" I said, "Oh yeah, we're going to win big." Don't know if we'll win many big this year, but we will compete at a better level. And you know, as we talk about football, that's what's so exciting is that connection of Razorback football, that commonality. There's so many other ways that we're connected through the campus if we really just have some time that can create just numerous conversations that help us all, both at the individual level and community level.
That's right. All right. Well, Ron, I think we've got a few thank yous from Emily Money and from Stephen Hines and Rita Geiger. I think that about wraps up our time. Ron, is there anything you'd like to conclude with today?
No, I just want to just close with, you know, as we go into our homecoming celebration of this one Razorback, one family. And I think it's even highlighted throughout this COVID pandemic is that we support and care and see what we can do for our neighbor during this time. See what we can do for our fellow family members. Because to me, I'm excited to see those connections as we look to highlight those connections across our University of Arkansas family. But we can only really recognize that energy when we really recognize and value those connections. So thank you all for your time today. And I look forward to working with you all over the next 2 years and beyond.
Thank you so much, Ron. Appreciate you. Have a great day.
Thank you, Brandy, as well for this opportunity. So
absolutely. Thank you all for joining us, and stay tuned this fall for more programs and opportunities to connect and serve the Razorback family. Thank you all. Have a great day.